What's going on, everybody? This is Crypto Nightmare, and I wanted to record my reactions regarding the season finales of some of the DC shows. Most specifically, I'll be talking about The Flash for this video, but I'll also be doing a video for the Arrow season finale as well. So, The Flash season finale was really good. I thought season 3 overall was very good. They did a really different take on the Flashpoint storyline, which for the comics was what ended the previous continuity and then started the New 52. And then they went ahead and they took a storyline from the New 52 comics called Out of Time, and they sort of adapted that into the season 3 plot. Of course, they gave their own changes to it. So what I liked about the way this season went was it was really good character development for Barry Allen to quite literally be his own worst enemy. It kind of forced him to look at the mistakes that he's made in the past for the past 3 seasons, and to realize that he was his own worst enemy the whole time, pretty much. You know, it's hard to fault him as a character because his mother died, and that was when he was young, and that's kind of what set off the whole chain of events, you know, when he got the powers and he realized that he could run through time and change events. He did go back to that night a couple of times, but he didn't end up changing her death and saving her until the end of season 2, when Zoom killed his father as well. So that was really kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. That ended up pushing him over the edge and making him decide that he needed to go back and change these events so that he could have this happy life that most people expect to have. So it's hard to fault him for that, but at the same time, realizing that he has these kinds of powers, he also needs to understand, and that's what a lot of the characters were trying to tell him, especially in season 1, Reverse Flash, in the guise of Harrison Wells, was trying to teach him that just because you can do this does not mean that you should do it. And there's a lot more going on than what you understand. There's, yes, you're going to affect your life, but it's going to be like throwing a pebble into the ocean. It's going to have a ripple effect that's going to change everything. So, like I said, it's hard to fault him for wanting to do it, but realizing, and he knew how much damage it would cause to the timeline, actually going through and doing it was something that, I don't know, it's really hard to put into words. So it was good, really good getting to see him have to confront these mistakes, and the fact that he understood that, yes, he shouldn't have done that, and now he had to make up for the consequences. So in addition to the character development for Barry, there was character development for really everybody. I think the one character that got the most character development in addition to Barry would have to be Caitlin Snow, because they went ahead and they started doing a story for her where she was developing these superpowers. She was turning into Killer Frost. But by the time they had gotten to the end of the season, she had been fighting this all season, trying not to have these powers because she was afraid to become Killer Frost. And then by the time we get to the end of the season, the season finale, well, even across the last couple of episodes of the season, you could see that even though she seemed like the Killer Frost persona had taken over her, you could see in her face, particularly the scene in the episode where Barry had his memories taken away and it affected Savitar because of cause and effect. When you get to the scene where she decides that if Barry gets his memory back, Savitar gets his memory back, and then she can get what she wants. So she's in Star Labs trying to help them to restore Barry's memory, and you can see it in her face when Cisco is talking and telling these stories about her and Ronnie before the particle accelerator exploded, or it might have even been when they were working on the particle accelerator, and you could just see it in her face and hear it in her voice that she didn't want that. Even though she seemed like she already was fully Killer Frost, you could see in her face that that's not what she really wanted to be. So by the time we get to the finale, the last few minutes, and we see she actually goes and helps them to defeat Savitar. And when they're at the funeral for H.R. Wells, so when they go to his funeral, she's not Killer Frost anymore, and they actually talk to her about that. And she says she can't be Killer Frost, that's not who she is. And she says she doesn't know who she is. So I think going forward into season 4, what I would like to see them do, if she's not going to be Killer Frost, I would like to see them turn her into the DC character Ice. Because I feel like that would just make sense. But I mean, if they were to do that, they would also have to introduce Fire. But I would love to see them introduce Ice, because Ice was one of my favorite characters from the comics, from the Justice League comics, and from the old cartoon as well. She didn't get much screen time. She was still one of the cooler ice-powered characters. And I did like Killer Frost a lot too, but I don't know. There's something about the way this particular version of Killer Frost was. I didn't hate the character, it didn't feel like Killer Frost. So I can understand them at the end of the season deciding that she's not going to be Killer Frost. So that just leaves me wondering, what character is she going to develop into? I mean, they could even just have her be maybe a variation of Killer Frost, where she's still Caitlin Snow, and she still has the powers, but she's just Caitlin Snow, and maybe she doesn't go by superhero identity. So getting back onto the point of Barry and time travel, Savitar was actually a future version of Barry. The way he was created, it's a time paradox, essentially, is what it is. So Savitar came back in time to kill Iris, and in order to defeat him, that Barry made a bunch of time remnants to help him fight Savitar. Now, Savitar killed all of the time remnants except for one. He left one of them injured but alive, so that it would become Savitar. So his existence was a never-ending chain, basically, and that made it really kind of hard to defeat him, because his existence was also ever-changing. Anything that Barry tried to do to change the outcomes that Savitar had set into place, Savitar would then gain those memories of Barry doing that, which would then basically just foil their plans, because it makes it as if Savitar had already lived through that. So there was really very limited options on how they could defeat him and foil his plans. Basically, their biggest option was something that none of them even came up with. It was HR on his own, when he was the one who revealed to Savitar where Iris was going to be. So he felt very guilty and responsible for this. So he went out and he found her. Using the piece of Savitar's armor that they had, he was able to track him down. So he set Iris free. He used the device he had to change his appearance to change himself into her, and then change her into him. So it wasn't actually ending up Iris that died, it ended up being him that died. But because him and Iris were the only two that knew about it, Savitar didn't know about it. So Savitar thought that he killed Iris. So that's how they were able to foil him. And I don't know. I got mixed feelings about this, because I love the version of Iris West that they have done for this series, but at the same time, it felt like kind of a cheap way to prevent her death by having another character just magically become her. In terms of appearance, it felt a little bit like the writers had painted themselves into a corner, I guess you could say, where they're like, well, what are we going to do now? We've already explained that Savitar remembers everything Barry has done, so what are we going to do? How are we going to keep Iris from dying? We can't have Iris West die. So that's one negative thing that I've got to say about that, is I think maybe her being able to survive could have been handled a little bit better, in my opinion, but I didn't entirely hate it either. So as for my predictions for Season 4, where I would like to see them go, I know that for the start of Season 4, we're going to have a lot of Wally West as the Kid Flash, because Barry is now stuck in the Speed Force, serving his penance for the damage he did by creating Flashpoint and all the other time travel stuff that he did. So we know that there's going to be a lot of Kid Flash, but as far as how Wally is going to be able to get Barry out of the Speed Force, or if Barry's going to be able to get himself out, maybe the Speed Force is going to release him, I'm not entirely sure how they would go about that. I'm kind of wondering if maybe they might go for the approach that Smallville used with one of the episodes of Bizarro, where Jor-El had imprisoned Clark Kent in the Fortress of Solitude in ice, while Bizarro was out running wild. And then when the moment was right, I guess, when the real Clark, was needed more, he let him out, and he said, "You have to go stop your doppelganger." So I'm wondering if maybe they're going to do something like that, where the Speed Force is keeping him in there for now, but when it sees that the world really needs him, it might maybe release him and say, "The world needs you. You gotta go stop what's going on right now." I would like also to see Caitlin Snow, maybe if she's not like a main member of Team Flash anymore. I would like to see her do some guest appearances, sometimes helping out the team, just like old times' sake, I guess you could say. Because I don't know, I feel like there's more development that they can give to her character, even though they did quite a bit of it over the third season. It feels like there's more that they can do with it. So that's something that I would love to see. And I definitely also would like to see more Jay Garrick. Simply, not even just because he's the first version of the Flash, but I feel like maybe it's because the actor that plays him has something to bring to the table, having played Barry Allen, the Flash, long ago, that maybe it's kind of like a passing the torch kind of thing. It's like he's an actual mentorship, because he is the first iteration of the Flash. He's Jay Garrick, the Flash, and he's teaching Wally and he's teaching Barry stuff. So there's a bit of a nice touch to that, a little bit. I don't know. It's just something that I like to see. So I would love to see more Jay Garrick in the series. As for who the main villain is going to be, that's something that hasn't been announced yet, obviously. Who would I like to see it be? I really can't say specifically. What I can say is I would like it to not be a speedster this time. I know that you expect all the Flash villains to be speedsters, because who else can keep up with the Flash? But I would like to see him get more of an intellectual challenge. Somebody that can challenge the way he thinks more than the way he moves. Because it's not as entertaining when every season is just a race, gotta catch up to this bad guy, I gotta be faster. So I would like to see a villain that pushes him to not be faster, but to be smarter and have more, I guess you could say, technique in the way that he does things. So that's going to be it for this episode. Let me know in the comments section down below what you guys thought of Season 3. Did you like their take on Flashpoint? Did you like Savitar being a future version of Barry? Did you like what they've done with Caitlin? And what are you expecting to see in Season 4? Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Every little bit does help us, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. We got more gaming videos, we got more impressions videos, we got a whole lot planned for this channel. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.